In the late 50s as an assistant director and director of photography on muscle-bound mini-epics like Hercules Unchained. He was first promoted to the director's chair when Riccardo Freda, another leading light of the Roman Gothic cinema, fell ill during the shooting of I Vampiri, a horror movie known in English as Lust of the Vampires or The Devil's Commandment. As a thank you for finishing the film, Bava was offered the chance to direct a picture of his own. Tonight's first movie is that picture, La Maschera del Demonio. Adapted very loosely from a Russian folk tale set down by Gogol, the film deals with vampires and witches and a family living under a century-old curse. Its plot is busy but unimportant, antique enough to serve for a silent movie, but its visual and oral style is astonishing. Working on a limited budget, Bava and his collaborators use elaborate sets, creative camera work, pounding music, and plenty of dry ice fog to give the film its dreamlike feel. Note the precedent-setting use of slow motion, the zoom lens, flashes of lightning, and spurts of monochrome gore. A key factor in the success of the movie was Bava's inspired casting of Barbara Steele, a J. Arthur Rank starlet whose startlingly unusual good looks had not been very well used in insipid British comedies. Once her career moved to the continent, Steele became a cult figure, alternating horror films for Bava and Freda with artier assignments like Fellini's 8½, and Schlondorf's Young Tourless. Steele is here seen as a witch who emerges in an unforgettable sequence from her tomb, and also as the innocent young girl whom the old hag wishes to possess. Currently employed in American television as the producer of The Winds of War and War and Remembrance, Barbara Steele was the vampire queen of the 60s horror film. The version we're screening tonight is entitled The Mask of Satan and was prepared in 1960 for overseas release. However, it was refused a certificate by the British Board of Film Censors, largely thanks to an execution sequence in the first 5 minutes. It was distributed under the title Black Sunday in the USA, but with a different soundtrack, and a severely truncated version of that came out in Britain in 1968 as Revenge of the Vampire. What we're seeing tonight, we believe, is the best possible English-language version available of the film. After Mask of Satan, Bava brought his low-budget style to a whole series of fantastical movies, tackling Vikings in Eric the Conqueror, mythological musclemen in Hercules in the Haunted World, chic psychopathic killers in Blood and Black Lace and A Hatchet for the Honeymoon, science fiction horrors in Planet of the Vampires, and super-secret agents in Danger Diabolic. He also continued his gothic mode with Black Sabbath and The Whip and the Flesh, starring horror icons Boris Karloff and Christopher Lee, and the extraordinarily Kill Baby Kill, which served as the inspiration for Fellini's short film Toby Dammit, on which Bava worked as an assistant. However, one of the drawbacks of working in a mainly despised genre, besides the lack of critical attention, is that you get kicked around a lot. Like such other horror directors as Roger Corman, George Romero, and Dario Argento, Bava has had his career marred with false starts, dud scripts, meddling producers, uncaring distributors, and downright doomed projects. Many of his best films could only be seen in much hacked-about versions, and too many of his later movies, which include Barren Blood, Bloodbath, and 5 Dolls for an August Moon, are triumphs of a style all but strangled by their shoddy scripts, zombie performances, and horrible dubbed soundtracks. Our second Bava movie is an example of this kind of harassment. Filmed in Spain in 1972, Lisa and the Devil languished undistributed on a shelf for 3 years, until producer Alfredo Leone saw a way to make it more commercial. He hacked off the ending and called back star Elke Sommer and staged some swearing, vomiting, and flaky makeup sequences with Robert Alder, cast as a priest, which were then inserted almost at random into Bava's movie. Leone put out the resulting interesting mess as House of Exorcism, in the hope of cashing in on the success of The Exorcist, and Bava used the pseudonym on the film. The film, originally an old dark house ghost story caught somewhere between The Cat and the Canary and Jacques Rivette's Celine and Julie Go Boating, therefore came and went as the last gasp of a short-lived trend for exorcism movies and was thoroughly ignored. Even as Lisa and the Devil, this is one of those pictures you have to make allowances for. Yes, the plot makes no sense. Yes, the characters are all semi-symbolic stick figures. Yes, Telly Savalas and his lollipop seem to come from some other movie. And yes, the twist ending is totally incomprehensible. But despite all that, it's a fascinating, outrageous, cynical, and surprisingly funny charade. And Bava's visual flair is uncurbed as he arranges corpses into the pose of Da Vinci's Last Supper, or stages the increasingly strange death sequences that inevitably punctuate the wayward storyline. So, for the first time in Britain, here is the director's cut of Lisa and the Devil.